Hey everybody, welcome to Board Game Heaven. My name is Raymond, and in this video I'm going to take a look at Chinchiller Dice by Andreas Preiss, published by Loosey Goosey. This is a game for 2 to 5 players, which plays in about 15 minutes for ages 10 and up. It's a dice rolling and a bit of a bluffing game, a little bit of lying involved as well. And before I open up the box and explain how to play the game and share my thoughts on it, I'd like to ask you to please hit that subscribe button if you haven't subscribed already. That is very much appreciated. And if you'd like to support what I do, there's also a Patreon page you can check out by clicking the link in the description below, and you can support for as little as just €1 per month or more, and in return you will get your name in the credits, early access to all of my videos, and access to some Patreon exclusive videos as well. Alright, let's get started. Alright, let's take a look at the box first. Chinchiller Dice. The funny little chinchilla on the cover, and some dice and a drink by Loosey Goosey. Alright, on the back of the box there's just some text. It's a bluffing game of literal blind trust in English and in German. For 2 to 5 players, plays in about 15 minutes for ages 10 and up. A game by Andreas Preiss. Right, let's open up that box and check the contents. So inside the box, we find a whole bunch of contents, a whole bunch of bits and bobs. We get a bag of yellow triangles, wooden triangles. We get a bag of yellow wooden circles, little cylinders. And we get a bag of yellow wooden, I guess they're fruits. Maybe they're pineapples. Let's have a look. We get 2 dice, which is the core of the game, of course. We're rolling these dice and we're getting some bits and bobs. And we get 2 rule books, one in German, or leaflets, and one in English. So let's see if we can focus there. So there you go. That's the components. Let's set up a game. To set up a game of Chinchiller Dice, take all of these tokens, and these are called sand tokens. There's 25 of these, 40 of these, and 20 of these. The round ones are worth 1 sand each, 1 point. These are worth 6 points, and these are worth 24. Take the 2 Chinchiller dice and keep them somewhere within easy reach. That's all you need to do. Now let's explain the rules. In Chinchiller Dice, you will be rolling these 2 dice, trying to score as many points as you can, and you take those points from the general supply. You take turns in clockwise order, and the rules recommend playing multiple games and being the starting player in turns. You can, of course, simply play 1 full game, but the rules suggest that if you're playing this with 2 players, you play 6 rounds, both players being the starting player 3 times, and in a 3-player game, every player gets to be the starting player twice, and in a 4 or 5-player game, you simply play as many rounds as there are players, and everybody is the starting player once. These 2 dice are both the same, and they have 4 values on their faces. There is the value 1, 3, 6, and 12. They also have 2 white faces. One of them is the chinchilla, and one of them is the ×2 multiplier. After rolling your dice, you are free to re-roll the yellow results, so the point values, as many times as you want, but if you re-roll your points, you have to re-roll all the point faces, so all the yellow sides. So for example, if I rolled this, for example, I need to keep this one on the table. You cannot re-roll the white faces, but I could re-roll this. Had I rolled this, for example, and I wanted to re-roll this one, I would have to re-roll this one as well. So you roll all the yellow faces again. Any white faces cannot be re-rolled and have to stay on the table. At the end, when you're done rolling, you just announce, okay, that's it for me. Then you get the number of points that you rolled. So if you rolled this is a very good roll, you get 12 times 2 is 24. And remember, these were worth 24 points. So you simply get one of these and you add them to your personal stash. So you can roll any amount. So for example, you can roll a 1 and a 3, that's 4 points, so you simply take 4 points from the stash. You could also roll a 1 times 2, that's only 2 points, which is the same of course as rolling 2 ones. You could roll a 3 and a 3, which is 6 points, then you take one of these tokens, or you could roll a 3 times 2, which is of course the same, or you could roll a 6. Every chinchilla face is worth nothing, so this would also be 6 points. This would be 7 points, this would be 9 points, 12 points, etc. So remember, this is always a 6, there is no 9 on these faces. Should you roll the multiplier twice, you get nothing because 0 points times 2 equals nothing. However, if you roll the chinchilla face times 2 like this, or like this, that is also 2 chinchilla faces, then you cannot re-roll, your turn is over, and you have to close one of your eyes, just like the icon here indicates. So one eye you need to keep closed for the rest of the game. After you've taken your turn and rolled the dice and scored any points, or ended up with 2 chinchillas like this or like this, and you had to close one of your eyes, you pass the dice to the player on your left, and that player takes their turn rolling the dice, and that would be a very bad roll, immediately having to close an eye, passing the dice. Next player rolls, they get 1 times 2, they might want to try and do better than just 2 points, so they re-roll all the white faces, that's 0 points. Next player is up, get a 6 and a 3, maybe they'll say, well, that's enough for me, I'll take those 9 points, and they just take that into their stash, etc. Now at some point, one of the players will roll the double chinchilla for the second time. And that means they have to close their other eye as well, making them blind. So from that point on, you cannot see what you roll. So on that player's next turn, if you are the player who has both eyes closed, you ask for the dice, so you simply hold out your hand, another player will hand you the dice, you roll those dice without looking of course, and you have some kind of result. Now, the player to your left, so the next player in line, will have to tell you what you rolled, but they can lie about it. And they can say any value that you could normally roll, so be careful that you actually know the different values that you can roll. And if I got my maths right, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 9, 12, 13, 15, 18, and 24. So when the player to your left announces a number that you possibly rolled, but you don't know if that is the truth or not, then you can either believe them or not. So if you simply believe the value they called, then you get those points from the central supply, and the other players will have to give that to you honestly. So you can't cheat with that. You can only lie about the results. But if you accept that you, for example, rolled a 6, so for example you rolled this, and the player to your left says, hey, you rolled a 6, and you say, okay, I believe you, then they have to give you those actual 6 points, even if you didn't actually roll a 6. Now, if you don't believe what your neighbor told you, then a number of things can happen. Either your neighbor told you in truth that you rolled, in first case, 6, less than 6, so that would be 1, 2, 3, or 4, so this would be the highest result under 6 that you could roll, so 1, 2, 3, or 4. So they said one of those results, but you didn't believe it. You thought, hey, I must definitely have rolled more than that. And you look, but you did actually roll what they said. So for example, you rolled 4, they said, hey, you rolled 4, you didn't believe it, you look, and it was indeed 4, then you have to pay 4, in this case, the result that you actually rolled, to the player on the left who told you that number. And of course, if the player on your left also has both eyes closed, it would be the next player in clockwise order. If for some reason you do not have enough to pay them that amount of sand, then they will simply take it from the general supply, or just take, if you only had 1 or 2 left, they take 2 from you and 2 from the general supply, for example, in this case. Now, if you rolled more than 6, for example, you rolled 7, and your neighbor told you truthfully that you did indeed roll 7, but you didn't believe it, and you check, and it is indeed the truth, then you get nothing. But in that case, if it's 6 or more, you also do not have to pay that player from your own stash. And that other player also doesn't get anything from the central supply. Now, if your neighbor actually lied and you called them out on it and you check and you did indeed roll a different amount, then that neighbor has to pay you the actual amount that you rolled from their supply. And again, if that's not enough, you can add from the general supply. But in addition to doing that, that neighbor also has to close one of their eyes. Also keep in mind that the player telling a blind player what they rolled does not have to specify how they rolled it. They can just say you rolled a 7. Now in this case there's only one way to roll a 7, but for example a 6 can be rolled multiple ways. You could roll a 9 here. So they don't have to say you rolled a 3 and a 6. They could say, hey, you rolled a 6, like this. Or maybe you rolled a 6, like this. It's fine to just say the total amount. Play continues like that in clockwise order until all of the players have both of their eyes closed so nobody can see any longer. That's when you end the game, and the player with the most points wins the game. And in case of a tie, the tied player who closed their eyes last wins the game. Those are all the rules to Chinchiller Dice. Let's go to my final thoughts. So my final thoughts on Chinchiller Dice by Loosey Goosey. Let's start with the components. So in the box, you basically only get a bunch of these yellow tokens in 3 different shapes representing the sand you're trying to collect. You get some leaflets with the rules on them. I got them in English and German, and that's it. And the 2 custom dice with the custom printed faces. These are just regular plastic dice. They look nice, the components. I don't know why they made all these tokens in the same yellow color. I mean, they represent sand, I guess, that all has the same color, and they do have different shapes, which are easy to make out. But thematically, that's kind of strange. I mean, these little round tokens, I guess, work for sand, but then you have triangles and these, I don't know, pineapples perhaps. I don't know what they are, but that is a little bit weird if you consider the theme of the game, which is also something I'll touch on in a little bit. But on themselves, the tokens are fine. You can easily make out the difference. They could have given them a different gradient of yellow, I guess, to make them even easier to distinguish from each other. But as it is, it's fine. They do their job. Then you have these 2 gray dice. I do like that they printed the numbers in yellow, and the other sides, the multiplication factor 2 and the chinchilla face in white and the others in yellow. That makes it easier to make out, and it makes it also easier to remember that the white faces cannot be re-rolled and the yellow faces can be re-rolled, but if you do re-roll all of them, that's pretty clear. I also do like the little chinchilla face there. That looks cute, but the box is way bigger than it needs to be. You get a box that has this much space for just this handful of tokens and 2 dice. It could have literally been a tiny, tiny box. I wish they had made these games a lot smaller, because Loosey Goosey does have lots of these minimalistic games, and I have no problem with a game being minimalistic. Actually, that they can be quite good, but then please also make the box as tiny as you can, because that's just a lot of wasted space on your shelf. But other than that, the components are fine. Artwork, there's not a lot of artwork in this game. There's the box cover, and there's some cute little chinchilla faces on the sides of the bottom of the box, which is also fine. And you have that same face on your die. But other than that, there's not much art here. But I do like the minimalistic design, like I said. Again, so the theme, your chinchillas, I guess, collecting sand. And the chinchilla with the most sand wins at the end of the game. But at some point, I guess they get tired because they're so relaxed and they close an eye and then they close their second eye. I think the theme doesn't really matter. It's a rolling dice, pressing your luck game, seeing how far you can go before you have to close an eye, and trying to collect as many of these tokens as you can. And that works. And then when people have their eyes closed, you start bluffing or lying, which is, I think, a lot of fun. But that's, you know, touching on gameplay already. Thematically, it doesn't really matter that much. I don't know why they chose chinchillas and sand. It could have been anything, I guess. But I guess it's a quirky theme, but it doesn't score any points for adding to the gameplay. So like I said, the gameplay itself then, I think is a lot of fun actually. For as minimalistic as the game is, and all you get is the tokens and the dice, it's quite fun to just roll some dice and see what you can get, trying to press your luck, get some better results, get as many points as you can. But sometimes you press your luck a bit too far and you have to close an eye, and then you sit like this, and yeah, that's already pretty hilarious. And then at some point you'll have both eyes closed and someone else is gonna say, hey, you rolled this. And then you have to decide whether you believe them or not. And if you believe them, you just get the points that they told you. And if you don't believe them, then the risk is there that they actually didn't lie, and you have to give them points if it's lower than 6, and or you get nothing if it's more than 6. So, but on the other hand, if they did lie and you called them out, then you get their points, which is also a big risk for the player who's lying. So I think that's a lot of fun. It's super simple. It's super light. It's just a quick little filler game. It plays really fast. It's something you basically can put in a little bag. Just the tokens and the dice, put in your pocket and bring with you, which is again why I wish this was in a much smaller box so you could just bring the box. But yeah, in the I really like quick little quirky party games, filler games like this that you can play in a couple of minutes. Replayability is as long as you want it to be. As long as you enjoy this game, it's replayable, and after you're tired of it, you sell it on or you give it away. So, I mean, the game's the same every time. You just have the 2 dice and you're rolling 4 points, and that's that. So, how long will you enjoy a game like this? Just keep that in mind when picking up this game. Language dependency, finally. The game is, of course, fully language independent because you only have the numbers and the faces of these dice and the tokens. Of course, the rules are here in this copy in English and German, but once you know the rules, you can explain them in your own language if you're not native English speaking. The rules are also very simple, so it's language independent, which I think is excellent. All in all, just a quirky, quick, enjoyable little pressure luck dice game. That's Chinchiller Dice by Loosey Goosey, and I'd like to thank Loosey Goosey for giving me a copy to review. I hope this video was informative and that you enjoyed it, and please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and please also check out my Patreon page by clicking the link in the description below or the icon at the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time on Board Game Heaven.